Welcome back, everybody. We have a very special guest today. Welcome, Dr. Robert Kiltz. He is the founder and director of CNY Fertility. He's a reproductive endocrinologist, an author, and a thought leader. He has so many amazing ideas and his experiences to share with us today. Welcome to Fertility in Focus, Dr. Kiltz.
Christina, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate being here and sharing thoughts.
Wonderful. So tell us a bit about your approach to fertility care.
Well, I started seeing my fertility back in 1997 when I was 41. I lost a job, had no money, wasn't sure what to do. I went and interviewed for some jobs and I decided, you know what, I just got to do this myself. So I started seeing my fertility. I did OB/GYN and started IVF in upstate New York. I'm born and raised in LA. And through the years of trials and tribulations and focusing on standard medicine, I learned that standard didn't work a lot. And why it didn't work, I had no idea, but I went on a quest to figure out. And I tripped over a lot of mindfulness and meditation and prayer and acupuncture and massage and chiropractic, herbal medicine, integrating Eastern and Western. And over the last 15 years, I've really focused a lot on nutrition and how important nutrition is. And we're missing the boat on that, I think, in our modern medicine. And I've always focused on affordability, access for everyone for fertility care. And CNY Fertility is still likely the most affordable in America, and we're still more affordable than most, even globally. And that's been my focus in life. So how can I help you get pregnant naturally or stop miscarrying or get healthier naturally? Because I think I focus on everything, not just fertility. And I went into medicine to help people. And money comes when you do what you love to do. And the money only fuels the fire of doing more of what you love to do. Because I love to invest back into what we do to help people build families.
It's amazing. Now, let's rewind a little bit, because when you say, you were like, this isn't working, was it like what I see, sort of like the success rates, or you can see it statistically, the success rates of, say, IVF and reproductive endocrinology, this like assisted reproductive therapies, they don't have great success rate. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I don't look at the data that we report because I look at individual people and see people that I think should get pregnant, but they're not, and other people I think shouldn't get pregnant, but they do. So a lot of what we think we know, I think, is wrong. The way we define health or disease, I think, is wrong. And I think we just are too focused on what we think we know as if the science is accurate and the data is accurate, where I think a lot of it is not. And the cause of disease, I've come to believe, is simply inflammation, a simple way to think about it. And it's inflammation secondary to the incorrect diet for humans and somewhat the incorrect lifestyle. We're running around and struggling and worrying. And that's why I began to integrate things like meditation and prayer and saw a lot of value to that. And then a bunch of my patients were getting pregnant on a diet, paleo diet. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, diet doesn't matter. And what's going on here? And so that's when I sort of really began to dig deep into, well, like, what is the cause of disease? And why are so many younger and younger people not only infertile, but getting cancers and depression and suicide, and the infectious diseases around the globe are growing. And then look at the chronic metabolic disorders, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, stroke. And so I'm curious. And then I question what we were taught and wonder, well, is that really true? Why do we keep on just repeating the same thing, and the same thing? Because the cost of healthcare is like doubling, tripling, going up crazily, and no one can afford it.
Well, no, and people aren't just on more and more medications or doing more and more interventions and kind of skipping over the basic things they could be doing in their day-to-day to be healthy. It's really, I tell my patients often that it's backwards. I'm like, before you go to the, more intense interventions, and this is not just in reproductive care, it's in any area, try first to address the lifestyle matters. I'm not sure when we lost track of that in history, but we certainly did.
Well, I I go back to our nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the healthy diet we tell everyone to eat is actually unhealthy.
Well, the
And
food
it's
pyramid are you referring to where it's like eat lots of grains?
well, I just look at again, we're taught to eat 3 to 6 meals a day
Mm-hmm.
to keep your metabolism going,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is incorrect because more food turns out to be bad for us. I don't care what food it is, more of it is not good for us.
I
More
would tend
fat.
to agree with that just in terms of my, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
When
please.
when I lived in Asia, I remember seeing a quote on one of the walls when I was in India, and it was like, it was something along the lines, under eating promotes longevity, basically. So there's this philosophy, and I think it's more in Eastern traditions that no, it's really bad to overeat. Like under eating actually will help you survive and thrive longer. And I can tell you the best I ever feel is when I'm eating less.
Yeah, empty gut brings a full life.
Yeah.
My one of my friends on one of my groups, Steve, he brings that to the table, and I think that fasting, if you think of the spiritual nature of it, it's critical. But we're taught you must eat 3 meals and snacks in between to keep your sugars level,
Mm-hmm.
which is a deadly, deadly recommendation.
Oh, I love this. So, because it's giving your body more to process, I imagine. You just have to process more. But I want to hear more about this because you've written a couple books on nutrition, and it's just so interesting to me.
Well, the basically we want our blood sugars to be lower, not higher.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if you eat 3 to 6 meals a day, your blood sugars are going to be higher because most of the meals we're eating are plant based and protein based.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't understand that plants break down to sugar because they're made of glucose,
Mm-hmm.
essentially carbohydrates,
Mm-hmm.
and then proteins, by the way, break down to amino acids, and they all break down to sugar in the liver. And no wonder we're all getting sicker and overweight and causing disease. And by the way, I don't believe being overweight is the cause of any disease. Obesity is not the cause of disease. It's just another sign or symptom of the metabolic disorders due to a excessive plant-based diet. Excessive, I say that. And so by eating less food less frequently, the glucose levels drop. Glucose causes glycation in excessive amounts. Glycation is rust of every cell and every molecule of your body. It's the leading cause of every disease. And when people begin to just start reading about it and go like, wait a minute, my doctor said eat plenty of grass and grains and lean meat, but no red meat, and eat 3 to 6 meals a day. And yet I need my doctor for the drugs and the dissections, the specialists. I mean, we're getting the more and more diseases that I don't even know what they are anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a layer inside the gut called the glycocalyx, which actually is a layer on every cell of our body, and it's a sugar layer that actually protects us like Teflon. And so when the layer is damaged due to excessive food going over this, just think of, you keep rubbing the paint on a car, or you're using your Teflon pan. After a while, it just wears down. And so wear and tear is not good for us either.
Mm-hmm.
So less is best. I say 1 meal a day, and do a 2 to 3 day fast a couple times a month, and a 5 to 7 day fast a couple times a year. And that'll give you the strength of fasting, which is the most ancient um, religious and a practice that human beings have performed.
When I lived in India, we did fasting twice a month. It was at the new moon,
Hmm.
and again 3 days before the full moon for the 3 days, basically.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah.
no water or no food. It was actually very difficult. And I do recommend it in terms of cleansing and spirituality. When somebody's extremely weak, I tend to recommend it a bit less. But tell me about your definition of fasting, like what you've found to be the healthiest form.
Well, you mentioned fasting, no food or water,
Mhm.
which is actually we eat too much food and we drink too much water, which damages our gut. When the gut is damaged, it damages the blood vessels, the organs, and everything else. You see, your body makes water, actually. The metabolism of fat is converted to ATP, which is your energy molecule that keeps everything moving. It's the fire of the Ferrari, and it makes carbon dioxide, which is a waste product, and then it makes H2O, which is water. So I fast every day, 23 hours. I do 23 hours of no eating, and then I have my meal.
And what's that meal consist of?
For me, it's usually steak, fatty steak, butter, salt. I sometimes put an egg. Once in a while, I'll have some French fries fried in duck grease and dipped in mayonnaise, duck grease mayonnaise with sour cream, and the grease from the steak poured all over it. And that's my standard. I once in a while have ice cream. I make an ice cream, very simple: cream, eggs, vanilla, bean, and a little bit of cane sugar. But I minimize alcohol, and I'm off coffee now for over a year. Alcohol is a toxic chemical, but most people don't know that they're actually making alcohol in their bowels every day. Plants and protein ferment. Bacteria and yeast love it. And so all the diseases we are suffering are secondary to auto-intoxication, which is the fermentation in your gut, your stomach, your small intestine, your large intestine, mostly in your large intestine, less in your stomach, almost none in your stomach because of the acids. But the microbes could grow there also, and microbes feed on sugars and amino acids. They're fermentable, but fat is not fermentable. And so if you think about it, we don't eat fat. No one eats fat. And when I talk fat, a stick of butter a day, that is fat. Or the lard from an animal. We eat avocado, which is a fruit, not fat. The food you eat breaks down to either amino acids, simple sugars, or fatty acids. Amino acids and sugars go to the liver, and via insulin in the liver, they're converted to fat, mostly. When you eat fat, it goes to the lymphatics, and then it's distributed everywhere because fat is the only fuel for your body. Glucose, sugars are not the direct fuel for the mitochondria. They must be converted to fat or you die.
So this is so interesting. Rewinding a little bit, is part of the approach, or a large part of it, not consuming anything that's fermentable? Because I did write about in my book, like my chapter on inflammation, I write about a lot of inflammation being caused from a gut imbalance wherein you are fermenting food and there's off-gassing and, leakage into your lymphatic system and what have you. But it is part of the idea of a keto carnivore diet that there is no fermentation because that's not how fat and protein are broken down?
Oh, yes. Microbes in your gut are deadly for us in any significance. Your body's doing everything it can to keep them out of your bloodstream, but you keep on eating the fuel to feed them. And the diseases of the world are all secondary to a high plant-based diet. If you look at the work of James Henry Salisbury, MD, Salisbury steak, 1850s, an Albany grad, scientist, a chemist, and a microscopist. In the Civil War, he found all of his men were dying of dysentery or pneumonia. And basically, he showed that the vomit and the diarrhea were containing a significant amount of overgrowth of bacteria, yeast, and viruses. And so he put everyone on the steak diet, and they all got better. And there was no more microbes in the gut. And so you can eat fermented foods. The reason we eat fermented foods is because fermentation of the foods makes them, the toxicities of them go away. They make them less toxic, and they make them more available because they break down the sugars, the fiber, the cellulose, the starch is broken down to a simple sugar because we cannot readily break down complex carbohydrates like a cow can.
So you could eat like a steak and sauerkraut? Like you're okay with a fermented vegetable, or no, not even?
Well, I would rather eat a simple sugar than a complex sugar. Sugars of constant sugar intake into your bloodstream causes constant glycation, which ultimately damages the epithelial glycocalyx layer of your bowels, and then it damages the endothelial glycocalyx layer of your blood vessels, which then gets to the liver and causes hepatic damage. And so again, it's something that's really radical, because it's hard to hear this story and make sense of it because we've heard one thing so often. But well, again, we're built to work and hunt and gather and prepare, and that's what we're born for. We're not born to go to a industrial job and do this repetitive work, although life is repetitive. But the whole idea that glucose is used up by your muscles for energy, it's not. Glycosylation. Most people don't even know what glycosylation is. They've heard of glycation. So hemoglobin A1C elevated is glycated hemoglobin. That means the sugars on your blood, on your red blood cells, are damaged by outside foreign plant sugars. So think of plants like a bacteria or viruses. If I injected these into your body, might you have an allergic reaction? Right? COVID virus, the flu virus, the cold viruses, all these viruses cause local or systemic inflammation. So just think of most of our diseases as allergies. The problem is you think an allergy is a sniffle, sneeze, redness, swelling, or pain, but cancer and every disease we experience is an allergic reaction, but it's silent and secretive and happening in places you and I can't even see or feel. And then you have a stomach ache and you think stomach aches are normal, or a headache from time to time, or menstrual cramps, or PCOS. It's a lifelong problem, but it really is just simply you and I are mostly allergic to the healthy diet we've been told is good for us.
I'm just finding this very interesting. So one of my takeaways so far is that, sugars are the source of evil, right? And I write about that, that just, the spiking of our insulin and blood sugar is causing a lot of problems. Now, meat, what I hear from people, because in Eastern medicine, we actually do believe that, meat is important to warm the body and supply nutrients for fertility. But, a lot of people find it very hard to digest. So, it may not have allergens per se, but for a lot of people, they feel like it sits, or they get very gassy. And this could be like a purely keto meal, right? It could be like steak and butter. And the gut starts bubbling and they feel like it's not going down. So how would you explain something like that? Like not enough stomach acid?
Have you ever had a reaction to something you've seen? You've gotten emotional. You've
Oh, you
gotten
think it's in your mind?
okay. Just we have masterfully manipulated the meat. Meat in general, for most people, is thought to be bad for you. The modern medicine is sharing that every day, that meat causes cancer. You will never see red meat in your toilet. And again, it's hard to believe, but I'm not here to sort of be a political or tell people what to do. But if you want to understand the science of the human body, fatty acids and amino acids are essential. There's no plant carbohydrate that's ever essential. Every mineral and vitamin you need is obtained from eating the fatty meat of a ruminant animal. That's really the simple story. And I didn't believe this until about 15 years ago. And then I've been carnivore now for almost 14 years, and I've never felt better. And every disease I suffered from, that, hemorrhoids gone in a month, kidney stones gone, bowel bleeding gone, migraines gone, never felt better. And I've seen so many people getting pregnant on this, but it's hard to believe.
I mean, I find it the way that you describe it, it's very informative. So, and there is such a movement right now that I don't find it so hard to believe. I have a friend who she was diagnosed with breast cancer yet again. It came back, and she went keto-carnivore. I think her doctor actually told her to, and she felt much better, and the cancer got better. So, that was unfertility related, but she was just like, I never thought I'd be one of these proponents of this diet, and here I am. But so if we take it back to fertility, since our listeners are here because they are on this journey to get pregnant, what have you seen change when you recommend this diet, like, with their IVF cycles? Like, is there egg quality changes, implantation, blah, blah, blah?
Well, I haven't really looked at IVF, eggs, sperm, embryos, and implantation, and sort of in a way that I could say, well, this percentage of people that did carnivore, because I don't know what people are eating. I do not. They're self-reported. Dietary studies are really difficult to hone into, but I've got 47, 48-year young women getting pregnant naturally on carnivore just because they tell me that. I've got people that couldn't get pregnant, didn't get pregnant, suddenly doing carnivore, fatty meat. That's critical. And I call it the baby's way: bacon, eggs, butter, beef, and salt. One meal a day, the best. You can have 2 or 3 snacks, but minimize them. But it's radical because inflammation is caused by a plant-based, lean meat, low-fat diet. I went into medicine to help people and save lives. But I realized my standard medicine, in some ways, or the standard diatribe, is not helping people. It's hurting people. And infertility is my general specialty, but I'm here to help people on all levels. Polycystic ovarian syndrome. I went to a PCOS meeting recently, and I was asked to be on a panel. It was really great and to be invited. The women, mostly women in the audience, they were losing hair on their head, growing hair on their face, all overweight and wanting to be skinny. The food fed to all of them was a plant-based, sweet rolls and fruit and all these things, and encouraging them to eat it because the diet's not your problem. You just are born this way, and it's a lifelong disease. But PCOS is a plant-caused ovarian sickness, and infinite women around the globe will heal from this. And the most important part is making babies. And I know you can be keto, and you could do this as a vegan vegetarian, by the way. It can be done. It's not as easy, but all you need to do is focus on fat in your food and less plants. And you want to cook the plants well to simplify them and kill the microbes. Insulin resistance is simply damaged liver. That's all it is. As the liver is damaged, it's less able to convert the sugars and amino acids to fat via insulin. And so your sugar levels rise. And fat, critical for making cholesterol, which is critical for making your hormones. So we basically are focusing on a low-fat diet. It may be simply a low-fat diet is our worst thing we do.
And I counsel people in that. I'm like, please, no low-fat products, no low-fat diet, particularly when it comes to everything, but like for hormonal health.
Yeah. And as a fertility physician, this is what I mostly talk about. I had a number of patients this morning that I spoke with. I talked to people around the globe. And again, I don't care where you're from. All of our cultures are a plant-based culture because most of us are peasants. We were the peasants, slaves, soldiers, or prisoners. And that is all a plant-based diet, not a fatty meat diet. Because most people that eat meat, they grill it on a barbecue, the fat drips off. They never put the fat back on their meal. I cook it in a pan under a broiler, capture the fat. It's black and blue or raw, and that is the very best thing. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so I'm not here to tell you what will help you live a long time or make you happy. If you have a disease and you want to know the cause of it, plant sugars, plant antigens, and microbial antigens, by the way. Plant and microbial chemicals, by the way. So a spider bite, does it have a chemical in there? Could it kill you? Could a bee sting kill you? Hmm. These are antigens and chemicals, right? The venom in a bite from a spider or a snake is a poison, correct?
So you're talking about the plants having antigens that are causing our body to react, that are causing all of this.
All day long. Because again, if I have hay fever or an anaphylactic reaction to so an antigen is something that causes an immunologic response in you. Mm-hmm. It's a simple story.
Mhm.
And so we're all swelling, redness, psoriasis, all this stuff on the inside and the outside, even the damage to the brain that causes dementia, it causes Alzheimer's, depression, suicidality, even criminality, I believe is all secondary to a high plant-based, low animal fat diet, because the science is simple. The foreign antigens, again, foreign. Now, listen, you breathe, you drink, you eat, whatever, you're always getting an antigen in there. You can't stop them. You live in an environment. You're hoping your body's immunologic reactions are not overdoing it. Again, anaphylactic reaction is the overwhelming release of the particles, which is the breakdown of the glycocalyx, by the way. And it sheds all its water, because the glycocalyx also stores water, and for the times when your body needs it. And in many times, the anaphylactic reaction is your body reaction to say, this is really a deadly antigen. I'm going to do everything I can to prevent it from getting into you, but the damage may already be done.
Well, I find this very interesting, and I love that you explain that, the plants have these antigens and we're having the reaction to it, and, the glucose and the microbes. It makes a ton of sense. Oh my gosh, it's evil. No, it makes a ton of sense. And I can see it being a diet worthwhile for people to explore, especially if they do find they're reacting and they don't know why, and they want to just cancel that. So this is amazing. What are the names of your books, Dr. Kiltz? So where can our listeners find you and get more information?
Well, drkiltz.com, DOCTORKILTZ, just spell it out, or, Kiltzy. I'm a reproductive endocrinologist, CNY fertility. Go to Amazon. My books are there. We sell our cookbook on drkiltz.com. Maria Emmerich and I put together a cookbook, mostly meat, but you can do keto as a vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean. I want to really emphasize that. And I'm not to tell people like your diet is the cause of all your disease. It is.
But it might be.
It is. It is. And it's so radical. And I take care of people around the globe, CNY fertility. But I mostly, if I can help you by reading my stuff, watching my stuff, and you never see me, you don't have to pay me a dime. Buy my book, I guess. It gives me a little something to keep the mission going. But these are radical ideas.
No, I think a lot of what you're saying is making sense, and I am definitely getting your book, and I recommend everybody else does too. We're going to put Dr. Kiltz information in the show notes, and it was such an amazing experience to have you. There it is. Kiltz Keto is Carnivore.
Kiltz Keto is Carnivore. And again, for everyone, vegan, vegetarians, Mediterraneans, and I honor everyone. And I always say you have to have faith first. Believe in God and look in the mirror, and there she, he, it is. Very important to have faith and have a mindset of positivity. All these things. Again, whatever the diet is, whatever disease you've been labeled with, don't label yourself a disease, by the way. When you label yourself a disease, you live it. You don't have any disease. You're a healthy, beautiful human being. And we need to share more positivity, more yoga and acupuncture and meditation and mindfulness, I think is so, so important for all of us.
Oh, and I agree so much that, not to assign a label and to get stuck in that, because, you start to tell yourself this story, this limiting story, and then that kind of takes over your entire journey. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kiltz, for being here, and can't wait to share this session with everyone. We'll definitely have you back.
Honor to everyone. Thank you, and God bless, Christina.